Well, it's working. We've been doing July Jones and Divine Right recently, and it's been working really well because you can always preface it with it. Well, Electric Version just turned 20.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And here's a deep cut from that record. Yeah. Yeah. So it really, you can push a few buttons immediately.
For sure.
Hell yeah. Look what we're doing right now on this podcast. Welcome to Matador Revisionist History. I am Matt Sweeney, and today we are going to tackle, take down, and chew apart and spit out and then build back together Electric Version by the New Pornographers. And this is a very special episode because not only do we have the great Carl Newman, we have Nils Bernstein, who was the publicist behind this record in 2003 and is also a close friend of Carl's and one of the great musical minds of our time, as you will find out.
Well, he's also my son's godfather.
Okay. Also,
Did you put that in there?
well, I guess I'll say it's the 20th anniversary of Electric Version and also the debut on Merge Records of Continue as a Guest, their latest record. So look out for both the reissue and the new record, because New Pornographers cannot be stopped and never will stop.
Matador Revisionist History. Yeah.
They did have a record called Working Man Stick.
Huh.
Yeah.
Speaking of porn Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, and what better way to open up this Matador Revisionist History podcast
Exactly.
with the great A.C. Newman and the great Nils Bernstein, who has been previously mentioned in a recent podcast as the most important man in showbiz by me. And so now he's here. That was on the Pretty Girls Make Graves podcast. And now we are here to talk New Pornographers, speaking of porn Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought that's what you were talking
That's the intro
about.
yet.
yeah, I don't see,
Of all the revisionist histories, that's number one so far.
I want to know how you guys know each other, and Nils, I want you to carry this because you're better at this than me, even and I don't even know if you've ever done it, but I know you're better at it.
And by implication, better at this than Carl, maybe, or
I think that is the implication.
Yeah, that
Yes.
was implied.
well, when I was at Sub Pop, we signed Zampano, Carl's previous band, which you might call Zampano, but they're Canadian, so it's Zampano.
I still don't know how it's said. It might be Zumpano. It might be Zumpano, like the strongman.
Zampano, yeah.
yeah.
Well, it's named after the drummer, and he's like, well, you can't say Zampano because it's my name, and it's Zampano. I was like, yeah, but you have to concede that you say your name wrong. I mean, no question.
And that always works.
But so yeah, Zampano was a band on Sub Pop that had 2 records, was on Sub Pop, was just phenomenally great, had a lot of fans, did very poorly, didn't sell well, did one of those bands that I think musicians liked a lot and just never
Well, then we didn't have a lot of fans.
Well, no, okay, but I will jump in and say that my friend Matt Quigley was obsessed with Zampano. We call them Zampano. And did you guys cover She May Call You Up Tonight? Or for some reason, it's so funny. Whenever I think of Zampano, I think of that Left Bank song because
I don't
you
think
guys,
so.
You guys just had this melodic sense. I must have heard both bands at the same time or something like that. But like this, like that kind of for you listeners out there who's not familiar with Zampano, nobody sounded like them at the time. Nobody, and it was a very high level of musicianship and like pop smarts, but in a 60s kind of way, but not sounding retro. It was really, really cool.
But it was we were also really like, I feel like, at least for me, I felt like I was grabbing for something that I couldn't achieve.
Yeah, reaching,
like sure. I was reaching so high, but it was like there was no way we were going to sound like Backrack and David. There was no way we were going to do Pet Sounds or Forever Changes.
Right.
But we were reaching for something like that. So what we ended up being was this kind of ramshackle band who was like had those touchstones. And yeah, I take some pride in just being completely out of step.
Yeah.
And even at the time, it struck me as a kind of punk thing. Like I knew that everybody was into grunge,
Right.
and I remember the first name I wanted to call us the Snowflakes because I thought it was just the wimpiest name. I thought in an era where everybody's trying to be fucking tough, let's just be the most openly light wimpy band. And not that it was done in an ironic way, but But, you know, but I was really getting into Odyssey and Oracle and Backrack and David and Jimmy Webb.
Yep.
And so I thought, fuck everything else. This is what I want to do.
Did you? Did you cover any song ever? Or was it only originals?
Our first record, we did a song called Rosecrans Boulevard.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Which is a Jimmy Webb song.
Yeah,
which
such a
again,
impossible song, by the way. I can't believe you guys even tried.
well, that's just it. That's just it. I don't even think we did that great of a job, but full marks for trying.
Oh yeah,
you know.
For sure. She was a stewardess, you know.
Yeah, and shot down in a non-combatant mission.
Yes. Sorry.
And though I hit it every time.
Sorry.
I mean, the two things I'd say, people that are into new pornographers and aren't that familiar with Zampano, is that, you know, it had much more of an explicit 60s reference points, I think. Mike Ledwidge was a principal songwriter as well, right?
Yeah. It was basically either I wrote the song or Mike wrote the music, and then I just sang, you know, made up a melody over top of it.
And so, you know, you tend to attribute everything to the singer. So I think a lot of people were like, well, this is it. This is what Carl does. These are all his songs. This is what he's into. Personally, this is what he's shooting for. The records were great. It seemed like, you know, man, you know, good for him. What a talent. And so it seemed like it was unfortunate that they didn't reach a higher level of success, but it seemed like it was quite successful artistically. That was the...
you know, I'm not even sure. I mean, for me, I think I always felt a little frustrated. You know, like I said, like I knew, like now I can look back and go, oh, it's kind of cute how we were reaching for something beyond our grasp.
Right.
But at the time, it really bugged me.
That people weren't getting it?
Or not that people weren't getting it, that I felt like I wasn't getting it.
You weren't hitting what you wanted to
Yeah,
get to.
like I feel like I was reaching for something and I wasn't quite getting there. And I think I just found that super frustrating, and not selling any records doesn't help. You know, so, and then...
No. But that's something that the audience isn't necessarily going to get, that your frustration or your feelings of, you know, somebody's like, wow, what a great record, what great songwriting. They're not thinking that you're, in your mind, there's a aspect of failure or not achieving your songwriting goals. People just thought, holy smokes, this is a really talented songwriter from Vancouver, which I think is why people were so shocked when Mass Romantic came out, because it was it just kind of zoomed past everything that Zampano had done.
Well, also it's kind of interesting because Zampano, like there's this reaching maximalism sort of vibe with some Zampano Pano, and then what New Pornographers has this. You're able, I think, still to cram all these insane amounts of melody in a way that totally lands. Yeah, you know,
No, it's bananas.
That's the sound.
I started at Matador in '97, and I got shortly thereafter I got a cassette from Carl of 4 songs and a letter. He's like, I don't even know if you still work at Matador. It's like a month after I started. You know, I did still work there, and he's like, well, you know, it's not a demo. I just thought, you know, you like Zampano, and I thought you might want to hear these songs. And my bandmates want me to send it to people I know. And I can at least stand by the song Breaking the Law because my friend Dan wrote it. And that girl, you know, Nico C, sings on one song, so you might like that. And I was like, great, okay, you know, Carl from Zampano has a new band. And so that was a 4-song demo of songs that came out later as Mass Romantic, and it was the heaviest of rotations for so long in the office. It was this, you know,
like it would have been a nice to just like, I don't know, call me up and go, you know, we're not signing you yet, but we like it. Because I was perplexed. Because I remember. I went to Jonathan Pondman and I told him like, it's a Pondman or Pondman?
Yeah.
It's Pondman. Pondman, yeah.
Pondman.
I said, I've got this other band I want to do, and and he gave me like I think $2,000 to record demos, whatever it was, and that's what we used to record those first 4 songs, and I felt really happy with it. I mean, it's 4 songs that ended up being on this record that did really well. And I sent it to Jonathan and didn't really hear much back. And I sent it to you and I never really heard much back. And I remember feeling kind of perplexed because thinking like, this is good. I
think I'm sure I told you I liked it, but I was pretty new at Matador and I didn't want to speak on behalf of Chris and Gerard. And it also was just so fucking bananas. I mean, that music is insane. Like, it was so unhinged, and you talk about like struggling with Rosecrans Boulevard or trying to, but it was like Bacharach. You're writing vocal melodies that you yourself can't sing. These like it's crammed full of hooks, but there's not really bridges or choruses. I mean, it's really insane. I mean, it's this weird combination of being as hooky as you can imagine while also seeming not even real, or like Nico sounded like auto-tuned and like Dan's a mess and like in the best way. And then you have like, as later emerged, the whole band is full of maniacs that are kind of everybody operating at 10, and so it was just hard to get a grip on, especially in the musical landscape of 1997.
And I think we also had to prove that we were a real band. I think we had to finish the record. We had to put it out. We had to show up on stage. And when we did that, I think that's when Matador came a-calling. And it's like, okay, you guys aren't just a person who made a weird demo. You're a real band.
But there was a lot of doing. That took a lot of doing. Doing what you just described, though, as far as getting it all together, right? I mean,
to get it together to play live. In the note you sent with it, you said, we're called the new Pornographers or the new Phonographers. I don't know yet.
I already knew that was going to be an issue. I already knew. I don't know why.
So it's hard to. I think there was an aspect of that it was a kind of studio concoction. Like Dan wrote this song, Nico sang on this song, so it wasn't necessarily clear that was a new band in the sense of a band that goes on tour and can play that music, can pull it off live, which didn't seem doable at the time to me. It just seemed so not really complicated, but maximalist, I guess is the word.
And yet
I want to, well, this is an important thing, because I was just thinking about, Carl, you're talking about how you didn't get any feedback from these people that you gave the music to. And I similarly have had, plenty of experiences like that. And then what's crazy is that I do it to other people. There'll be a record that I'm really excited about hearing.
Oh yeah.
Super excited about hearing from somebody who I love. Yeah. And I will, for whatever reason, it takes a minute to get to it. And sometimes it could take a really long time, and it's like, and I know on the other end, I fucking hate that. I would really appreciate, I don't know what I'd appreciate, like if the person called me, hey, still haven't listened to your shit yet. I guess.
It's a weird one when somebody sends you their book.
Oh, right. Well, yeah. Oh, my God.
because even when you really want to read it, it's like, but that thing's 500 pages.
Well, there's that, yeah. But I'm talking about genuinely being down for it.
I understand.
Or like liking it and not telling them, or like getting to it, liking it and still not saying anything.
I'm absolutely the worst for that.
Yeah.
I can absolutely the worst.
So you're bitching about it, but you do the exact same.
I wasn't bitching about it. I was just, I think I was very understanding.
You weren't bitching. That's true. That's true.
But we're saying that now in an era of, phones and email and texting and whatever.
Oh, yes.
This is 97, so I don't really want to talk on the phone and do the whole long catch up on the phone. There wasn't really email, or if there was, I don't know how I would have found your email address. It wasn't on the note. And then I could have written a letter back that, dear Carl, I very much enjoy your
know.
demo tapes. Like,
I hope this letter finds you well.
Yes. Yeah. So it just wasn't
the winter has been hard.
But then this also takes me back to, because it wasn't as easy, you really would hang on, or especially like, what does Matador think was definitely a thing, at least it wasn't my mind. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. I think it was because it was like, you're like, it's not a demo. I wanted you to hear it. Right. I had just started at Matador. We were playing the shit out of it, but it was the old offices where people were a bit spread out. So it was kind of like me and Christina Zafirish just rocking out every day. So it wasn't, it wasn't really, I didn't see it as something that was, that Matador needed to give feedback on, or that I was even in a position to do that. I mean, Like, I feel like it was good to go through it. I feel like it was good to be in Zampano and get signed to this label and think you were going to do well because you got signed to this cool label, and then flop.
Right.
And then the band breaks up and you do this other thing, and then you send your demo out, and I felt like it made me like a little tougher, and I think it made me a little more cynical, but in a good way. I thought to myself, okay, nobody's going to do this for me. And if this is going to happen, it's going to happen because I make something good. Like somehow like my cynicism was also very, very pure. And I thought, like, if we're good, we'll do well. Mm-hmm. I just thought to myself, that's all there is to it. If you make a good record, people are going to like it. And I think that's what happened.
You literally sent a cassette with Letter from an Occupant on it, pretty much in its form as it ended up on the album.
Exactly.
So that's a pretty remarkable thing to get, but it was so confident, those songs, that maybe there's an element of like, man, maybe better take Carl down a few pegs. It's pretty cocky music. Damn, he's really going for it.
We need to break him.
But
swagger was not a thing in '97 necessarily. It's just, out of fashion. So
it's true. But also going back to Zampano, I thought the same thing as far as having there was this exuberant confidence to it without it being. It just sounded. I don't know what it's. It's basically your sound. I feel like But it's really up and it's really confident. It's super melodic. And it's really, but at the same time, it doesn't sound like you went to music school. I don't know how else to put it. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think you can tell that I'm very much self-taught. Like, you can tell that I'm just kind of approximating
records.
I'm approximating what like good, really insanely talented, well-trained people do.
Or maybe like you've learned from listening to music.
Yeah.
And listening to records and stuff.
I know it's interesting looking back on it now, because I realize I did learn there's like a musical sophistication that I learned through the years that I didn't have.
Sure.
Like when I picked up a guitar at 18, I did not know anything, and I just said, like, this is what I want to do.
Right.
Like, I knew what I liked, like I was a huge fan, and I thought, try and do that. And it's interesting how, like, whatever 25 years later you realize, like, oh yeah, it like if you do something long enough, if you want it and you love it, like, it seeps in and it becomes this part of you. And so now I feel a lot more confident, than I did back then.
But I want to ask you, what was that thing when you were 18 that you wanted to do? Bacharach level?
No, that
what is that?
Wanting to do that that wasn't until I was like 23.
Okay, so just to write and to make a song is well. When you were 18, what were the goals when you picked up a guitar?
I don't know. I was just kind of fucking around. I really loved Pixies and Throwing Muses.
Okay.
So I wasn't like trying to play folk music. I was just kind of, messing around with power chords. I had a Beatles easy guitar songbook. And then my first band, we were, it was from the age of grunge, and you just kind of play shit.
I know.
I'm going to play this riff, and then I'm going to play this part, and I'm going to play that part, and then I'm going to yell over top of it, and that's the song, right? And that was like that. And then concurrent to that was when I thought I want to write proper songs. So like I became obsessed with this songs that still blow me away. Are You There With Another Girl by Dionne Warwick was playing on a loop in my car the other day, and I just wanted to listen to it over and over again. I just thought, what a perfect song. And that's what I wanted to do. And I listened to that and I think, why couldn't you do it? Like, I think this it's easy enough to imitate. Why didn't you just dissect the song and like pull it apart and
because
just
you
do
don't
that?
know. I feel like when you're young, you don't know what to pull apart, and you don't know what to dissect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I never knew when somebody would like, I'm going to play bass. I was like, how do you even know what the bass part is?
Right.
Like,
yeah. How do
you know, when you're just hearing music when you're in high school, it's like, how do you pull out the bass part from that? It was, you know, it's confusing to figure out how songs were structured. But Carl, like you, a lot of people have a guitar and a dream, you know,
right. Yeah.
and
So I'm
an
saying,
ambition. But you hear music, you kind of see it, I think, in a deeper way than a lot of people. You have deeper fandom and knowledge of music, but you also, I think, kind of understand it in a deeper way than a lot of 18-year-old fans.
Yeah.
But I didn't at 18 though. But,
So then, who made the call about new pornographers when it finally did happen?
well, we Mint Records wanted to put out a compilation. It was called Vancouver Special. And so we said, why don't you take Letter from an Occupant? It's like, we're not doing anything with it.
Right.
So it's like, sure, take the song.
Right.
So one of them's going to get released. And it got put on this local compilation they put out. And then it was song one, and it got a lot of attention, you know, just around Canada. But people went, who are they?
Right.
You know, like, what is this band? And then Mint, who also heard the demo and passed on it, when they saw that other people were hearing it and liked it, they said, okay, maybe we'll put out your record. And I remember it very well, meeting with Bill and Randy from Mint, and Bill saying, this record is so good, I think we could make our money back. and I thought,
that's awesome.
Seriously?
Really?
You know, that was I've tried not to do dumb things in music, but I think the really dumb thing we did was that we essentially signed to Mint for 3 records. Just because at the time I thought, sure, who gives a shit? Because I had no delusions of success.
Right.
Like we had just finished, we didn't know anybody who was going to like it.
You want the thing to come out.
Yeah, I just thought, sure. You know, and they said, are you going to make another record? And I was like, I don't know. Like if nobody had liked Master Romantic, there probably would not have been a second record.
Right.
Because it takes a lot of effort to make a record, you know? Yeah. Like you want to have some sort of positive reinforcement. And I Master Romantic just felt like, you know, it just felt like an almost defiant act. Like, I don't care if anybody wants to hear this music. We're gonna fucking make it. It was like, yeah. What's that Queen song? I considered it a challenge for the whole human race, you know?
Yeah.
And we were the champions.
Yes. So
zooming past Master Romantic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I mean, again, I guess to, you know, bring this into the realm of Electric Version and, but I mean, I will say that everybody in Matador was fans from the get-go. And I don't know if you met everybody at the shows you played in New York, whatever, but, you know, it was a big, I mean, you know, everybody at Matador was huge New Pornographers fans. So I don't remember what the process was of luring you to the label, but it certainly was, you know, Master Romantic took off in a really beautiful kind of organic way. And I think set you up very well for a second record that I understand the thought process of like, will there even be a second record? But then as Master Romantic did really well and you were a real band, you were positioned really well for that second record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think we got the most press for Electric Version. I think it was either Electric Version or Twin Cinema, but Electric Version I think got a lot of leftover press for Master Romantic. Oh yeah, because all the interest in Master Romantic just dribbled in over the course of a year or two. So when this one came out, everybody was there. Like, we'll be there on day one. Right. You're gonna get your Spin article, and day one you're gonna get your Rolling Stone review.
1,000%. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
and I mean, this woman, Yvette Ray, who did press for Master Romantic, did an amazing job, but it was it was a long-term thing, and people like pegging press to a new album. So that's exactly what happened. Is everybody really wanted to cover the band, and they, it was only a new record that gave them the opportunity to do that.
And then it helped that like about 4 months after Electric Version came out, Matador reissued Master Romantic.
Yeah. Right.
So there really was a point there where like all of a sudden it was almost like Master Romantic was a new record as well, because it didn't have very good distribution on Mint. So I think for a lot of people it was like they were two new records. Even though one of them was like 2.5 years old.
And that's a lot of catchy songs for people to fall in people's lap, in a short period of time.
Yeah, definitely.
A hook jackpot, for sure.
But I do remember. I'm answering a question you didn't even ask, but I remember when we finished making Electric Version, I remember thinking like, are they going to reject it? Like, really? I feel like if they'd sent it back to me and said, no, this is way worse than your first record, we don't like it, I would have said, fair enough, because sometimes you have no.
Is that just you? Is that how you are? Or?
For the most part, it is. Yeah. In fact, I remember when we got the mastered version of Master Romantic way back in like summer of 2000, I remember listening to it and went, well, you made another shitty record, Newman. I wasn't like, this is so good. Like I'd lost all perspective, I just thought whatever. Like sometimes you just don't, it's hard to be excited about something for a long time. But you lose perspective, but you also have to remember that you need that perspective, because you can't depend on other people to tell you about your record. Because an idiot might be saying something. A lot of morons are going to say things about your records that don't have a clue. And so I realized, like, you have to remember, like, this is good.
Yeah.
I feel proud of what I did, but it's hard to feel that way.
There was I can't speak to Matador now, but at the time, Matador didn't reject records. Matador didn't, say, oh, well, that's, nice try, but why don't you, switch this around, take these 5 songs off, re-record this, do the, it's more like, great, thanks, thanks for the record. We'll do the best we can. Right. So, which is great, but it also, I think, often bands didn't necessarily get very detailed feedback. So it was like, thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah. Like I don't ever recall like ever getting anybody from the label just raving to me. I don't recall like delivering Electric Version or Twin Cinema and having people go, oh my God, this is brilliant.
Sometimes there was an element of relief. Like I remember when we got the second Interpol record, which is so incredibly good, coming after an unbelievably great record. It was more like, rather than like, oh my God, you guys, this is so great. I think that might have come later, but at the time it was just like, thank God.
Thank God you gave us the minimum of what we needed.
Well, the sophomore slump, you fear that second record. Yeah, so, I think, the first thing with Electric Version is like, oh, fuck yeah, great. It's another.
And also, I don't think there is anything dishonorable about being that band that just puts out one classic record and that's it. Like I feel that way, but I feel that way about Jesus and Mary Chain. Yeah. I loved Psycho Candy, and I remember thinking like, nope, you guys are just retreading it now. You had one classic record, or
I'd say half most my favorite bands that probably applies to.
Yeah.
And so I try to remember like what a Fairweather fan I am. In the same way that you forget to listen to your friend's record, you forget to return their emails.
Yeah, just the worst.
You forget to love the bands you love.
Yep.
You move on. You're like, sorry, Icicle Works, I listen to grunge now.
Yeah. Whisper to a scream, whatever.
Yeah.
The matter of feedback was, no, it's good, or possibly Gerard, really good. Chris, maybe. Oh, it's great, and that would be about it. But I feel like around the time of Electric Version, one thing is that Matador had its shit together as far as being able to have a big reach and a way to like sell a band. And I really can't say much more than that, but it really seemed like the Matador machine was really strong at that point.
Yeah.
Like look at how well all like that year, this like your releases were doing really well.
And it was usually best when a band had a little bit of momentum also. So we both were kind of like attacking it with a lot of momentum and success behind it. So to have those things kind of coalescing.
I remember our record was postponed a little bit. It came out in May 2003, but I think we were finished in October 2002. That's when we,
right.
But then I think Yola Tango or Malkmus had a record coming out. It was like
Malkmus.
Yeah, it's like their record's coming out in March. So we want to make sure that we can like, you know, give you a proper push. So it felt, I remember thinking like, oh, it's not coming out until like 6 months after we finished it.
Total bummer.
Which now it's like, oh, I wish the lead up time was so short.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember that it was a very it was a very, very strange time.
I was just gonna say the other thing about 2003, you know, was good at Matador. I think around that time there was, you know, second Interpol record, there was Cat Power, there was the second Malkmus record, there was a Yola record. You know, there's a lot of good stuff. But I think what I remember also was that what people responded to is it was really joyous at a time where it was still the kind of aftermath of 9/11. And there was a lot of heaviness going around or, you know, wistfulness or whatever in music. And there was this kind of, you know, this really aggro, joyous record that I think really was something people really responded to or needed at that time without knowing it.
That was such the post 2001 musical scene did seem like the music was serving emotional needs of people, whether they knew it or not, you know, and again, for sure, I was thinking, Nils, it must have been interesting to be working the new Pornographers at that time as the Matador publicist who's there's 90s baggage or muscle or whatever you want to call it that Matador has, and then you have this record that's like this, you know, like cavalcade of joyous, bright, you know, pop hooks, you know, like with this weird name, and they're Canadian, and it's like really and I also remember at the time just like, oh wait, they have two records out and they're called the New Port. Wait, and it's like, and I knew Nico, you know, like wait, so Nico's the man? Like what the fuck, you know, like what is this? And yet it was huge. Like it seemed like everybody got it right away. This was just because I think
there was like it was a combination of a lot of things. You know, I think the momentum of Mass Romantic, so many people getting turned on to it over such a long period of time. It wasn't like a record that people associated with one year or one moment of their lives or something. It's like people really came to it and, you know, it had a lot of life. So we had all of that Mass Romantic momentum going into it. I personally was so into it and and thought it was such an amazing follow-up record to a record that really couldn't really be followed up. Like Mass Romantic is so unique and wild that you wonder what the second record would be like, because it's not a replicable record, Mass Romantic. And so, I think it just was, you know, and it's sequenced really well. Electric Version is. I think it has a lot of power.
You know, I do remember making it and thinking like I didn't want to make another Mass Romantic. You know, there were points where like I remember the song Testament to Youth and Verse, the dance song. I remember thinking, like, we're known for being maximal. So I wanted it to be, I wanted the main, you know, the first half of the song to be really minimal. You know, I wanted the first half of it to just be just a guitar, a bass and drum, and like dance vocal. And then it would open up into a big choral thing at the end. But, you know, I wanted it to be a little bit more dynamic. Even back then, I mean, I don't know if we succeeded, you know, because I think there was just kind of a noisiness. There's kind of an aggro-spastic noisiness to us that comes through no matter what we try to do.
And it's funny because in my head, when I sing the songs in my head, they're pretty straightforward. And then I get to the moment in a song where it changes, and there's a lot of parts in these songs, so it's like, I think in my head that it's just this linear song, and it's like, whoop, nope. It takes a lot of directions.
They definitely do. If I haven't heard one of our songs for a long time, I'm shocked. Like I'll be like, wow, that was a weird left turn. I did not expect that. And it makes me appreciate it more. I think, when I put enough distance between myself and the music, and then I can appreciate wow, that was a weird juxtaposition.
I think it really, in retrospect, people talk, it's called Electric Version. I think that's how people refer to the record, as this like, okay, Bass Romantic was the wacky record, and then this was the rockin' record, which I don't think that really holds true necessarily.
I don't think so at all.
Yeah, but I think it's true because of the name Electric Version. Somehow that gets baked into the thing.
Yeah, but and it's it's the first three songs. You have Electric Version, Blown Speakers, and Laws of Change are these very, they're these hard charging songs.
But Blown Speakers isn't a really hard charging song, though.
Well, what's funny is
it's
I was
kind
listening
of
to it this week.
It's
kind of wonky.
Yeah, but it's still coming at you. It's not chill.
It's not a ballad.
Yeah.
And it builds.
Yeah.
But I did notice, like, again, in my head, all your songs are really fast, and they're not really.
No.
I mean, some are, but and so a song that I think is really speedy, I'll listen to it and go, oh yeah, it's actually, a much more mid-tempo vibe.
Yeah, like when I listen to Blown Speakers, I think, why did we play it so slowly? Because we play it faster live, but that's the eternal question when you make a record.
Why did it play so slow?
Or just did we do it at the right tempo?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something I just remembered was talking about the title Electric Version. For a long time, I wanted it to be called Our Brother Goes Electric, and it was because I was watching my friends, the Beachwood Sparks, and Farmer Dave, who ended up being in Interpol. Yes. Is he still in Interpol?
No. But he's in Farmer Dave and the West Coast Wizards.
Yeah. So they were taking a break while the guitar player changed guitars, and Farmer Dave said, "Pardon us while our brother goes electric." And I thought that was really
that was a good
hilarious.
Farmer Dave. That was a perfect Farmer Dave.
And
that's amazing.
And so I thought, I'm going to call our next record "Our Brother Goes Electric." And then John Collins, I remember him saying, "No, I hate it. It's like calling your record All That Jazz." And I
What's
went,
wrong with that?
And I went, really? It's like, okay. And so I thought the compromise was, I guess I might have already had the song, so maybe I thought, okay, why don't we call it Electric Version instead of Our Brother Goes Electric?
That is cool. I did not expect to be talking about Farmer Dave today. That makes me psyched.
And I brought that up with John a few months ago. I said, remember, I wanted to call it Our Brother Goes Electric, and you said it was a terrible name, and he said, yeah, I don't remember that. It's like, yeah, you were probably drunk. I probably changed the title of the album because you were wasted one day in 2002. Yeah. And what are you talking about? That's like All That Jazz.
That's like All That Jazz.
But looking back, I feel like everything, it all happens for a reason. It was a bunch of random events that just led us here.
Well, kind of and kind of not, and that's what's that's the interesting thing about choosing to be in a band and making all these choices, especially a band like I would say New Pornographers. It's a bunch of random shit, but there's this is an unusual record that sold a shit ton of copies. That's completely uncompromising, and like you're talking about how the songs are. Like you think of the songs as being fast. I think you think of them as being fast because there's so much fucking information in these songs, and there is so much coming at you, and so much to consider.
Like they have to be fast to fit it all in.
Yeah. Like they couldn't. You couldn't fit all the stuff in it. Or
to go 180, Blown Speakers has to be slower to fit it all in.
To fit it all
you know,
in.
like,
Right.
like maybe
Yeah.
you think it's faster because it's so much full of information, but for us to fit it all in,
You have to slow it down.
It has to be,
Yeah. Nils,
Yes, sir.
It's exciting to have you here because it's very rare that when you get to talk to somebody who got to present a successful record, and and also your tenure at Matador was very successful, and you were able. And also, I have also professionally worked as a publicist, and the idea, and I would like to touch on this for a moment of how. Because I still think it's important. I think that even today, where you apparently don't need a publicist because everybody decides for themselves what what the thing is. There's always a way of the presentation and the frame of how a record is brought out defines it for decades. Often, it's so important.
It's so driven by publicists.
Yeah. And so when you got this record, and you talked about it a little bit, but so you get. They hand an electric version, and what do you do?
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. I mean, for me, it's like, first of all, it's that, like I was saying, the kind of relief that, like, oh my God, they followed up Mass Romantic, which seems very unfollow-upable.
Yes.
And then beyond that, you get into it, and you're like, just song after song after song. It's just so brilliant. It's sequenced brilliantly in the sense that there's a real flow to the record. There's this, incredible. As much as it's kind of, there's a lot of, you can think of it as kind of this hard driving record with these, exciting songs, have a lot of information. There's still a lot of ups and downs and a lot of emotional twists and turns. The damn songs come in just at the right moment. So it's just, it's an absolutely brilliant record that came at a time and from a group of people that you didn't know if what else there was that they could do, because Mass Romantic felt like such a release of so much up to that point. So it's like you get this incredible record that also I think is pretty immediate, as complicated, it's kind of the wrong word, but as many parts as a lot of the songs have.
That's their sound though. That's the sound. Is like
they're all hooks.
Yeah.
It's just hook after hook after hook. So I hate when I feel like I have to tell a writer that they have to listen to something, over and over and over again over the course of a month. And in this, you should wear headphones, and you should be in a quiet room, or you actually really need to go see them live. It's like, come on, when you get a demo, in 10 seconds if you're going to keep listening to it or not. And a record's that way too. So, I feel like this record's a gift, and that right off if it's, if you're going to want to keep listening or not. And then beyond that, I just really, really love Carl. I really respect him. I really think he's one of the great songwriters of, by then he was already one of the great songwriters of the time. And now 20 years later, it still holds true. And so I was just, it was an incredible gift for me to have any part in it. And I feel like at that time, now I feel like people are just trying to kind of, everything's done on email, and everybody sends out their press releases, and everyone tries to create one message that everybody can respond to. But back then you were talking on the phone to people all day, and
all these relationships.
So if I'm talking to different writers, I know I have a sense of what they like and what songs they might respond better to or not. I know just because I had been talking about Mass Romantic to everybody but for years by that point, that I knew who already had interest in the band, who might have had some connection to it. I knew who had gone to New Pornographers shows before Electric Version came out. So, I felt like I could almost go through and just kind of hand pick people and talk to people one-on-one and go through that list of 500 writers or whatever, and just really try to get everybody to engage with it, even if it's just for 10 seconds, to at least give it that moment. And it's that kind of record that if you give it a little bit of time, you're going to listen to it through to the end.
Yeah, because it's going to give you so goddamn much, for sure. That's really fucking cool. Thanks, Nils. That was a masterclass.
Thank you for doing that for us.
Plus, Nico was on the record. You know, you can.
I mean, she was.
There's some weird angles. You know, Dan, like, is he in the band? Is he not in the band? Is he Spanish? Is he not Spanish?
I mean, we had a few good foots in the door. Like Nico was a very good foot in the door.
Yeah.
I remember, like, when the first record came out, I remember it might have been Yvette saying, like, you'd send a record to people and people are just openly going, you say it's great, why would I listen to it? you know, like that's like what does it do? It's just a bunch of songs.
Yeah.
Like what's the angle? Like you're trying to. And then we had like, well, you know, Nico K, she put out this record, Friends from Lullaby. Yeah, I like her. Well, she's in the band. And so I was like, okay.
Right.
Okay, so we've got a foot in the door. And if you can back that up, if you can get
in.
somebody to listen to it because Nico's in the band and you're good, it's like, then, yeah, you can kick the door open a little bit.
And
well, that's always the struggle, is just to get people to listen in the first place.
You know, I think there was... It was weird back then because, like, the relationship between the Pornographers and Destroyer and Nico... It was very complimentary. Like, there was
healthy competition for sure.
Yeah, like, but it wasn't even
not in competition, but
it was like, it's like we helped each other.
Yeah.
And I think there was a point around the time with like 2002, 2003 where like we were the biggest thing. Like Nico hadn't made Fox Confessor and Middle Cyclone yet, and I think it helped for them. I think it helped Destroyer and Nico, and that like. When they came out with their really great records, they had that foot in the door. It's like, okay, this guy, I like his songs on the Pornographers record. Now let's listen to his record. And they went, oh, and they'd go, we like these as much or better, you know.
Should we do a song by song, or how
yeah,
how been going?
Let's do it. Okay, this is as loosey goosey as always, and but I like that idea because I'm sitting here with the album in front of me. So
if I can remember,
see if I can remember anything about.
Okay. Well, actually, you've given good intel on Electric Version. You've done, and you've give me, and you're allowed to do one. Each of you gives one sentence about the song. Okay.
Well, I'll do Electric Version.
Okay, go.
The best thing about Electric Version is that he rhymes God with version.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't trying to rhyme. I mean, obviously.
But you do. But it did rhyme in the first. Screech of tires, bolts and wires, or whatever. And then
yes, so Charles is the sound of God, the Electric Version. I mean, it's vaguely. You know what the only thing I remember about actually, this is a great story about Electric Version. Nico was like, the song is not in my, I can't sing it. It's hard for me to sing, but Nico was supposed to sing it, but then the computer crashed. John Collins' computer crashed, and she was like, "Well, I got to go," and that was it. It was like, okay, I guess we didn't get. Yeah, I guess I'm going to sing it. I still want to do a version with her singing it.
That's a good idea.
We actually re-recorded Bed Tracks last year because I thought, let's do the Electric Version the way I want it to be. But it's not done yet. But I just thought that's classic New Pornographers because It just felt insane, because I'd finally gotten there, like Mass Romantic was like, did well, and it was like, I'm finally getting somewhere, but I'm still recording in somebody's basement, and John's computer is still crashing. And Nico's still like, sorry, I gotta go, and it's like, okay, go. And you can't do it again at any point in the next month. Nope. It's like, okay.
I do feel there's a thing where you create problems for yourself.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Probably.
Writing songs you can't sing.
Yes.
I think that shows or tells a lot about what I want to be as a musician, and that like I wanted to write a great song. I never wanted to be a singer. I never wanted to be a rock star. I mean, I like the idea of being a rock star, but more than anything, I wanted to write a great song. So for me, it was like I was trying to write a great song, and the idea that like, well, you can't sing that, it didn't matter to me. I thought, well, then I'll either have to try and sing it or get somebody else to sing it.
Right.
And these days I'm not like that. These days I think more like, hey, if you can't sing it, move the notes around. I mean, who cares?
Figure it out.
Like I'm less precious about the actual song. But back then I was like, no, I'm a songwriter and this is how it goes.
And this is my idea. My idea is very important.
And I can't reach this note, but okay, I'm gonna have to figure it out.
Because it was my idea, because I had that idea, and I have to do that.
So I have to go where the song goes.
So all right, we're going to go to from Blown Speakers, Nils.
Right.
What do you got?
Well, that song was funny because people would call it the Contact High song. And I think there was a thing where, like, I don't know if it was from like Slow Descent and alcoholism, or there's this idea that you guys were a little wigged out. Are you kind of high? Is it a little psychedelic? And I think people thought it was cute or funny that maybe you guys were, I remember people would hypothesize that some of it was kind of acid driven or something.
It was definitely alcohol driven.
Alcohol driven?
Yeah. I think people were just kind of wondering where the music was coming from. And for some reason, people would always zero in on that Contact High of Blown Speakers. I don't know.
For that song, it began as a 3-chord song, like it ends as a 3-chord song,
right.
like dun, 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 out blown speakers, and that's what I had. And at the beginning, it was like when the contact high from the real life adventure. It was a 3-chord song, and I remember thinking, I'm gonna try and explode this song outwards. So the verses, I thought, okay, they work as a 3-chord song, but what if I start changing the chords? Like, what if instead of C, F, and G, it becomes C and E flat minor and G sharp? And I was just thinking like, how much do I have to change the melody? And like trying to change the melody as little as possible while expanding the music outwards. And that was the experiment of Blown Speakers. And then at the end, I can go back to for the big outro, I can go back to the 3-chord song. So that was an experiment that worked.
The laws have changed.
Well, you can't really deny that kind of predated Trump.
Yeah.
Or what's the word? It telegraphed the new fascist era.
But it was already happening. I think.
Yeah.
It already seemed that way, like, because Bush, it seems very benign right now, but
that era of Bush, I was furious all the fucking time.
All the time. Yeah.
Furious.
My main memory from Laws Have Changed was that I decided to try a songwriting exercise where I listened to Mass Romantic backwards, and I think I listened to Letter from an Occupant backwards.
Actually backwards.
Yeah. It's pretty easy to do. Yeah. And there were some cool melodies in it, and I turned them into Laws Have Changed.
No shit.
And if you think of the melody on Laws Have Changed, it has a kind of backwards quality, like like it has it kind of sounds like a backwards melody, I mean, that's not to say I just played it backwards and took it and went, here's my new song. But, there was a lot of just, obviously there's a lot of garbled, backwards sounding bullshit. But in the middle of it, I'd go, oh, that's a cool melody. And I pulled that out. And then, there were parts of it that I just wrote. Like that big kind of na-na-na-na-na-na, that big form a line through here. And I also remember that the chorus where everybody's singing form a line through here, I just kind of improv'd in the studio because that part was just na 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 na, and I thought maybe it should have something else, maybe it shouldn't just be me going na na na, and so I remember just coming up with that in the spot and thinking like, wow, that's cool. It's kind of the best part of the song, and I just got
an amazing
and I just kind of winged it.
End of Medicine.
That was Matador UK in 2002 wanted to put out a single of Letter from an Occupant, and they needed a B-side. So I knocked it out very quickly. I wrote it I wrote it in one day, which I never do, and we recorded it the next day. And then I was shocked at how well it came out. And then I thought, well, let's do a proper version. You know, like there was a version we did that was the B-side, and then we thought, oh, that's good. Let's redo it for the album. You know, and there are, of course, people that go, I like the B-side version better. And it's like, well, yeah, there's always you people.
Right.
And it might be better. It might be better.
Well, I first time was always the best time, I think. Whenever people are saying it, I liked where I was the first time I heard that song. So if it's a different version.
Like the version that was the first time you heard it.
Yeah.
I guess End of Medicine's another drug reference. Drugs were lacing song. I don't know. None.
Yeah, you know, there's a theme that runs through a lot of my music. I think it's about trying to escape from the self. You know, like I think music was always a way to escape from the self, you know? And I think it's just everything in the band. Like I wasn't trying to communicate something very personal. I wasn't trying to say, here's what it's like to be Carl. I was trying to create something that was outside of me. You know, I was trying to create something that was more fun and more exciting than
being yourself.
I wanted to create something that was like, this is what I want to be. This is not an expression of like who I am. This is who I want to be. This is what I want to do. Like it was aspirational. And yet knowing that behind all this music there was like, you know, anxiety and depression and like drinking, and knowing that I was drinking too much, and knowing that I was using alcohol or drugs or anything, like most people, using it to get away from myself. And so I think all that kind of stuff snuck in, like, are we facing the end of all the medicine we're taking? It was the idea that like how long can I do this?
And yet, as it turns out, you can self-medicate for decades on end.
I know.
Yeah. And you know, I think being like about a year and a half sober now, I feel like I look back on this stuff now and I feel like I feel very clear. You know, I feel like a lot clearer. Like I realized like, yeah, like there's a lot of stuff I was trying to deal with that comes back to something very like elemental, and like, you know, it's like I was watching the Phil Spector documentary, and they're talking about pop music. It was like pop music, it's like sad people making music for other sad people, you know, or something. You know, I'm sure I'm misquoting it, but I just the idea of like that there is a lot of sadness at the heart of pop music. Like Brian Wilson made some of the most joyous, happy music, and I know how sad he was. I know how troubled he was, but yet I still hear Warmth of the Sun and think this is like God speaking.
Loose translation.
Well, I was going to say that's got to be the best conversation to result from the end of medicine in ages.
Yeah, it's true.
That's true. That was good.
One song.
We really went deep.
We went there. That was good.
God, loose translation. I just remember that was me really trying to stretch what we do, because it's built around like weird kind of synth loops and bleeps. It's stuff I still do actually. But that was the beginning of it. It's a song that I'm not sure if it got there. I think it was an interesting experiment. Like it was never the hit. It was never like the what song anybody was yelling like play loose translation, or if they did, I'd go, shut up, you're just trying to be obscure.
My only comment on that song is that's always the song I forget.
Yeah, there's always one. But I liked it.
I like it when I hear it, but I always forget how to start it. But
I liked it enough that I put it in at song 5. You know,
I know. I was just thinking about it. I was like for a band that's about contact, it's interesting that you put it there. You know.
But I think I like the idea of being, you know, the weird move,
the obscure move.
Like I remember when I was a teenager and obsessed with REM. I loved when I got Fables and they opened with Feeling Gravity's Pull. It's like, they opened with a weird number. And so that I always thought like, yeah, you know, don't be shy about your weird numbers, you know.
Yeah.
Right. So you decided to follow it up with the weirdest of numbers.
Chump Change.
Come on, Chump Change.
Well, you know, my main memories of Chump Change is that I didn't know when Master Magnetic came out, Dan moved to Spain immediately. So I thought, well, is that it? You know, is he not in the band anymore? Like,
you didn't ask?
No, it's never been.
There's been a lot of moments.
I know.
Been Dan from the band or not.
Yeah, exactly. But then he came back from Spain right around the time when we were working on this, and I think I just went to him and was like, "Hey, do you want some songs on a new record?" And he was like, "Sure." And that was one of them. And I remember the reference point he brought up was like "Flies on Sherbet."
Sick.
Which is one of the greatest songs ever recorded. Alex Chilton, for those who don't know.
Yes.
And I think I remember that was kind of a touchstone, but I don't think it was a vague touchstone. But I remember that's kind of what Dan wanted, and I thought, yeah, that's, just this kind of cool, drugged out, sloppy vibe.
Yeah.
And it has one of my favorite and hilarious Dan lines. What is it? I took a line from your...
Took a page from your book and a line from your page.
And flew into a lesbian rage.
That's really good.
I always admired that Dan would do things like that. Like I could see myself just like writing that down, but then go, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. Not putting that in the song, but Dan puts it in.
It's definitely.
But I think Dan has a great thing where there's something about his voice and his delivery that I think puts enough ironic distance between himself and the line. Whereas if I started singing about lesbian rage, I think it would come off a lot differently, and people would be like, "Why are you singing about lesbian rage?" And I'd be like, "But I didn't mean it." And it's like, "Well, it sounds like you did."
Yeah. Whereas when Dan says it, they say it like, "Huh? Why are you singing about it?"
Yeah, it's like why is that 60s? Yeah. Why is that 60s Batman villain talking about lesbian rage?
So I have leading into isn't it All for Swinging You Around?
That's correct,
Yeah.
Nils.
I have an issue with it's not a bad issue necessarily, but the side ending songs on this album are interesting to me. They're very All for Swinging You Around and Miss Teen Word Power. They're these kind of like deceptively breezy, kind of cheery, cheerleadery songs that I could never, I love both the songs a lot, but I found it was funny. You'd go get kind of deeper and deeper into the side and then just kind of like end with this kind of burst of sunshine.
And when you say cheerleadery, this leads us to the video.
That was a video idea that kind of went off. It kind of went off, and I remember Nico and I had an idea for the video, and I think the initial idea was a lot more absurdist. I think the idea was that there was some teenage girls having a pajama party, and then a bunch of middle-aged guys with mustaches came and challenged them to a rumble.
That was
right.
okay.
I think we were like that would be hilarious if it was something completely absurdist.
Were they really jumping rope? This is what I want to know. Or was that CGI? How do they do all that jump rope shit? That's crazy.
The jump rope stuff was like.
Was that a team of jump ropists?
Yeah, there was. A guy was good at jumping rope. Like I went to the video shoot and I was
That's
like,
crazy.
I was like, why are they jumping rope, Blaine? And he was like, because he's good at jumping rope. And it's like, but that doesn't have any. But
Yeah. The girls are choreographed.
The girls were dancers and the jump ropers were jump ropers.
I just remember feeling like, videos are strange because sometimes
it's a feeling of losing control.
You have an idea, and all of a sudden you're like, what's happening here is not what we talked about.
Yes.
But I can't really like push everybody aside and start directing this by myself.
No, totally. And also people do music often for an element of control, and when you get to make a record, you're controlling every last thing, and that's part of the fucking reason that you do, and that's the reason you write a song and stuff, and then all of a sudden
you have to give it away completely.
And film is, inherently you can't be in control because it takes too many people to make the thing. You know what I mean? And then videos that have that aspect to it, and then on top of that, it's a music video, and so it gets weird.
And there's no budget, and there's time and location constraints, and I mean, videos are a problem for sure.
But the laws of change video was great because I came up with the idea, which was basically like, let's just reshoot Louis Buñuel's Simon of the Desert as a video.
Amazing.
And it was like, here's the idea, do this. It was like, let's do this. And that came out really well because it was like,
that's what it was.
That's all they did. And I think, and I love the idea that maybe 20 years later, somebody would watch Simon of the Desert and go,
wait, what the
hey, this is what the pornographers were doing.
Music videos, the concept should be explainable in one sentence.
Yeah.
When you get beyond that, it's problematic. All right, side 2.
Is that a Dan tune or is that a you tune?
That's New Face. That's me.
That's you.
Yeah.
But side 2 is Dan heavy for sure. These Dan songs. Is it a Testament or a ballad?
Testament Testament to Youth and Verse.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're sweet songs for Dan.
I remember. I have a very clear memory of. I think it must have been 99 or early 2000. I went to see Dan play, and he was playing solo, and he did Jackie, which ended up on Master Romantic, and he did Testament to Youth and Verse. And I remember hearing them, and I was really high, and it was that when you're high and you feel like you get this genius idea, and you think, these 2 songs are going to be in my band. And like after he got off stage, I went over to him. I was like, Dan, that song that goes, the bells ring, no, no, no. Yeah, Testament. We're going to do that in the Pornographers. And he was like, okay.
Sure.
And that other one about visualized success. It's like, yeah, we're going to do that in the Pornographers.
That's mine.
Yeah, I claim those. And
he's like, okay.
He was cool with it. And, I think because it was at a time when, who cares? I think we both had the same attitude. Like, you want to sign us to 3 records, Mint? Sure. What does it fucking matter?
Yeah.
You want these 2 songs, Carl? Sure. What does it fucking matter?
But that, the bells ring, no, no, no. That's lasted. It's a live classic.
Yeah. It's and we've been throwing it in the middle of the set. Just because it's like a great song to throw in the middle. Mm-hmm. It's like, let's throw a show ender in the middle. And you get the crowd singing along, and it's great in that it's there are some Dan songs that we can't do without him. Like we can't do Myriad Harbor without him. It doesn't feel right. But Testament has become like a band song. So so it's great when he's there to sing it, but it doesn't matter if he's there because it's become ours. And
it belongs to everyone. Yeah,
and when it breaks down and we do the whole choral thing, like that's like the Pornographers. That's the Pornographers doing what they do well.
No, it's peak Pornographers for sure.
Definitely. And it's we almost always do it. And I always love doing it. It's great.
So good.
It's a great one.
So cool.
Oh, and then Divine Right.
Mm-hmm.
We started playing that again recently, which is totally fun, and it kills.
I feel like you've done that on other albums where you put in this kind of like rockin' hit late in the record. I always thought Divine Right's kind of like a hit, but it's kind of buried on the album, which not in a bad way. It really keeps the momentum going, and it's in a great position, but it on any other record it'd be like the first song.
It's the I feel like it's the most Master Romantic song on the album, and that it's a little bit more prog, but it has that, it just has that element of like, okay, we're going straight into it. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're going hard for 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's gonna go to a bunch of different places. And Fancy played this amazing guitar solo at the end, which just sounds like a loose wire flailing around. Yeah.
I will say we're moving into July Jones, which is my personal favorite song on the album.
Tell us why, Nils.
Cool fake reggae.
Don't say that.
I just watched Nils
Sound like
deflate.
the Police.
I just
To me, July Jones is this really emo song. It's this really beautiful, emotional, heartfelt. To me, it's really moving. I used to always say, like, Kurt Weill, it's like I always respond out of whack to his songs. Like, I hear Kurt Weill and I just break down and start sobbing and my heart starts racing, and I don't think he's really
That's not what it's about.
that's not happening to him.
Right,
you
right.
know? But I just respond really emotionally to it. And that's how July Jones is for me. I just find it this incredibly emotional, heart-wrenching song, whether it was ever intended to be or not.
Well, I think it goes back to themes like one of the greats on the way, hold on.
Yeah.
Not necessarily talking about myself, like, hey, I'm one of the greats, but striving for that,
Yeah.
like wanting to be that, like,
Yeah.
I think that's what drives it.
Yeah. And failing miserably, hence the sadness of the song.
Yeah, behind the daylight, who knew what it could feel like?
Just kidding. I love that song. That's another one when you do it. You don't do it live much. Maybe you do lately. I don't know. But you wouldn't do it live that much. And then when you would, people would be like, oh, pss, pss, pss. Like people would really respond to it. But it's a sleeper.
Wait, we skipped Ballad of a Comeback Kid, didn't we?
No, did we?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we kind of coasted over
But
it. Yes.
what do you got? What do you got, Carl?
That one, I think Dan used to have like these. He used to just make all these demos. Like he'd fill a 90-minute cassette
Of songs.
of just songs, and like a lot of them would just seem kind of tossed off. But like I would go through them, and then I'd find like this one's really good. And I think that's where I found Ballad of a Comeback Kid. And I think I said, this one's good. Can we do that? And then he said, okay, I'm going to write a new part for it. So he wrote the beginning. He added the beginning, the pray for content. Yeah, there were a few songs that I found on that cassette. I think Wild Homes from the first record I took from that cassette, and maybe another one from the first record. But yeah, it was a different time. like talking to Dan. It's weird because he used to be so crazy, like prolific, and that he would just like write songs constantly, and now he's not that guy at all.
Yeah,
I guess we all change.
I was gonna say, you were talking about how you never write a song in one sitting. Is that still the case? And how does that work? Do you start a song and then you keep on going back to it and build it and build it and build it?
Yeah, I think it's just the way I have to do it. There are different schools of songwriting.
Of course.
Like some people think like you got to knock it out
In an hour.
You got to knock it out very quickly, and I think that can work. And there's a school of songwriting where they go, yeah, it's good enough, just keep moving. And I think, yeah, but I don't really want,
Right.
I don't,
Right.
I don't want to be that person. Like I want it to be something I feel proud of, and sometimes it takes years, not solid effort,
Right,
but just
right.
like the song's not there yet, and
Right.
I'll put it aside,
Right.
and then I'll come back to it and go like, okay, I think I know what to do with it now. And then, there's a lot of things that I just have to come together. I think part of being a successful songwriter is just being willing to be, how can I put this? You have to be willing to be like full of shit. You have to be willing to just be an empty suit, because a lot of songs, like there's nothing behind them.
Right.
like a lot of Dylan songs.
Of course.
People think Dylan songs are like these
Lived
cities
experiences.
full of
Yeah,
people,
yeah,
but they're not. They're
Yeah.
just kind of like, they're like cardboard facades, like on a Western set, but there's a certain kind of genius that you can that you can create that illusion,
Totally.
like just creating the idea of something. And so I think when I'm writing songs, there's a part of me that's always thinking like, you're full of shit. You know, like
somebody's going to be finding meaning in this that you are not aware of.
Yeah, that's not there.
Yeah.
And you're trying to write about something. It's like it's something you don't know, but that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
It's how it works if you're an author. You know, you want to write about open heart surgery, but you're not a surgeon, so you do some research and you just try and fake it enough. So I think for me, it's taken a long time to just accept the fact that like, no, you're not. There's not supposed to be a world there. There's not supposed to be a world inside that song. It's just a little slice. It's a little picture of something, and other people can project their worlds over top of it.
Miss Teen Word Power.
This is famously the song that I tell people I hate.
Why?
and I put it at the end of the record because it was my least favorite.
Do you still hate it?
No, I heard it recently, and because like I was said earlier, it was a song that I forgot how it went, so I could appreciate it like a listener. And when I finally had all that separation and I heard it, it made me appreciate like, oh, we're this bizarro pop band who, like, you can tell our touchstones are pop music, but we're always going in weird directions, and it doesn't care if it goes to the chorus, or it doesn't even know what the chorus is, which I think is something we do a lot. And I think when I was recording that and mixing it, I was getting really kind of sick of myself. I think I was getting really kind of sick of the way I write, and so again, that's not how another person would hear it.
Right.
But I think with this record, I was getting to a point where, I'd made Electric Version and I'd made Mass Romantic, and I wanted to write in a different way. And I think I wanted, like, you listen to It's Only Divine Right, and it's really fast, and it's got like 5 or 6 different sections and different feels. And even, by the end of this record, I was thinking like I wanted to figure out how to pull back a little bit. And it's probably no accident that I made my first solo record after making this, because I thought I wanted to do something with the songs that I didn't think were, Pornographers songs. And then that one did very well. And then I went into Twin Cinema, and I thought, well, anything can be a Pornographer song.
Right.
So I don't have to write, and they don't have to be these weird, complex prog songs. They don't all have to be boppy and poppy.
And also, I mean, I'm imagining you didn't set out to write new Pornographers type songs, or did you? Like in the first place, but then all of a sudden you think that you have to. Do you know what I mean? Like even on this record, laws have changed. I mean, I appreciate it now, but even at the time, I thought like, this is just the same shit we do. I felt like, it's like, yeah, give the people what they want. And people love the song. It's one of the most popular songs we play live. But even then I thought like, the people that, the artists that I loved were a little bit more all over the place, like Eno, like Taking Tiger Mountain or Warm Jets or, Green World or even the Beatles' White Album. Like I didn't want to be a person that just did one thing. And I'm still like that. Like I still feel like what else do you do? Like that's the reason I make music. I want to see what I can do. I don't want to. I'm not trying to. It's not like I'm constantly trying to write Mass Romantic, and every time I'm like, damn it, I didn't write Mass Romantic, or I didn't write our most popular song. I'm trying to do something different. And so when I hear this record, I can, that's what I hear. Like I hear me trying to figure out like, what else do you do? Right. And also you identifying what you do. I'd imagine you might hear that too. Like you're recognizing you're like, okay, I know how to do this. This is this thing that I've maybe cracked this code.
And even back then I knew it was like too easy for the song to go
right,
because people are gonna like it. Right. Even though it was not rocket science, like people knew that we did that kind of thing well.
Right.
and sometimes it was just trying to figure out a different feel. Like Laws Have Changed. I thought, okay, this is a total Pornographers by the numbers song. What can we do?
How do we
it's
fuck
like,
it up?
And it's like, how about if it does this? How about if we just give it a different rhythmic vibe? And I thought, okay, there it is. There's a different version of what we do.
Bonus track.
Nils, do you know about this bonus track?
No. Which song is it?
It's called Turn. It's actually Nora O'Connor is basically the female vocal on it. It's essentially me and Nora. That might have been one of the reasons. Well, it's kind of weird. It's a little out of step with the other songs on the record, which is probably why it didn't make it. And also the fact that it was essentially Nora singing lead, and I thought it might feel weird to have this other person.
Was it recorded around the same time?
Yeah, it's part of the all those sessions, which reminds me of something just about the record in general that most people don't know about. Was that, remember I said how like I wanted Nico to sing electric version, and she said like, well, sorry, I got to go home. Sorry, I got to leave. The computer crashed and she had to leave. It's like, well, there were other songs we didn't get to as well. So I'd met Nora because she'd been singing with Andrew, and Andrew had toured with us the year before, Andrew Bird.
Oh.
And so I said, hey, why don't you come to Vancouver and sing on a record? And so she does all the female vocals on It's Only Divine Right. Like Nico's not on It's Only Divine Right. That's all Nora. Nora does all the female vocals on July Jones. There's no Nico there. What else is there?
Miss Teen? No,
I feel there's a few songs like where people think it's Nico, but it's Nora, and I feel bad for like Nora because I feel like she doesn't, if we went on stage with Nora and did It's Only Divine Right, people would be like, oh, where's Nico? And it'd be this is what it sounds like on the record. This is the lineup from the record you're hearing,
That's so true.
Set the record straight, Carl.
What was that?
The record is being set straight.
Yeah, and, and I think, which is not to pit Nora against Nico or any way, but, I feel like,
But for the sake of the podcast.
Yeah, let's spice it up. Thanks, you guys. That fucking ruled. Thanks for hanging out, Carl.
Thanks,
Nils.
very cool.
Thank you.
Very cool to hang out with both of you.
Honored to be here.